Welcome to It's Later Than You Think, the podcast about living in the moment, enjoying the ride, and making the most out of our lives. I'm your host, Patrick Ailshire, a 40-something-year-old Wisconsinite, sharing my experiences and encouraging you to rethink time, purpose, and everything in between. Let's make the most of right now. Hello yet again. Thank you for being here today and listening in. Wherever you may be, whatever you may be doing. In this episode, we explored the quiet, often subconscious lies we tell. To others, to the world, and most of all, to ourselves. From small self-preservations like, I'm okay, to larger patterns like pretending we're not lonely or afraid, these untruths often act as shields. But are they protecting us or preventing us from growing? Stay tuned to find out. I want to talk about the idea that not all lies are malicious. If someone has asked you a serious question, or they've accused you of something, and you look them straight in the face, right, and look them right in the eyes, and deny whatever they're accusing you of, if that turns out to be a lie, that's an example of, not being truthful and not having the other person's best interest in mind. I'd say most of us aren't really good liars to begin with. We don't look people in the eyes when we're lying. We get a little red in the face, maybe get a little fidgety. We start to sweat a little bit. Are we worried about getting caught? Are we feeling bad about not giving the truth? Now, maybe it's easier for some of you to lie than others. Not necessarily talking about those little white lies, as we call them. Those might be a little bit more innocent. Maybe someone asked you a question and you didn't want to be completely honest because you thought it would hurt their feelings. You were maybe a little embarrassed about sharing something to either yourself or someone else. There's those little moments in life, the gentle deceptions of when we're not being completely honest with either ourselves or one another. And that's the phrase, I'm fine, or I'm okay, when you don't actually mean it. I'm sure we can all come up with a time that's happened to us, that we've demonstrated that. I can recall multiple times in the past where someone I was close with asked how I was doing, and for whatever reason I wasn't ready to be honest with them. I didn't want to talk about whatever was on my mind, and I responded with, I'm fine, I'm good, knowing that I wasn't being completely honest. I want to ask this question. What are the lies we live with because the truth feels too dangerous? Some examples of self-protective lies. I'm over it. I don't care. I have time. Let's take a look at what each of those phrases actually means and why it's sometimes easier to say the lie. So the phrase, I'm over it. We kind of say that tongue-in-cheek, kind of sarcastically at times. I'm over it. But it's still something that weighs heavily on your mind. We might use that phrase to move on to the next thing that we want to talk about, to not talk about whatever that issue is, at least not anymore right now. Saying I don't care, generally a way to deflect, to tell someone that you really do care, otherwise you probably wouldn't be talking about that issue to begin with. I have time. This is a phrase we tell ourselves fairly often, giving ourselves a way out not to take care of something that's important to us in the moment. Whether it's registering for some courses or a certification program, whether it's starting a new exercise program, whether it's calling up a close friend or family member. I'll get to that later. I have time. And the whole premise of this podcast, that's later than you think, you really don't necessarily have all that much time. Did you call the caterers for the party next weekend? I have time. Did you send out the invitations for the party? I have time. Did you pay the utility bill this month? I have time. It can be something small. It can be something even larger. But that is one we use more often than we really should. I want you to think back to episode 21, A Letter to Your Younger Self. Were you able to talk to your younger self about how quickly life passes you by, how fast things go, and that you really don't have all that much time? I want to spend a little bit of time talking about the evolution of a lie. So thinking about something that you believe about yourself that's not necessarily true, but you say this phrase repetitively until it turns into an actual belief. So for example, telling yourself you're not creative until it starts to become your identity. Maybe you tell yourself you're not athletic, or that you aren't going to ever be able to go work out successfully, to lose weight, to quit smoking, to get that promotion at your job. It's just not in the cards for you. And you say that over and over. You're going to eventually start to believe your own negative self-talk. And a lot of these lies stem from not having a belief in ourselves, that we can do something. This has been shown over all of time. The ones we hear about are really those people that are known to be famous, whether they're celebrities or historical figures. I'd like to share some of those with you just to remind you about what they've had to overcome in their lives. So the first one, Albert Einstein. He didn't speak at all for the first 3 years of his life. Even though he received good grades throughout primary and elementary school, many of his teachers assumed he was lazy because he was always distracted by abstract concepts. Despite the lack of confidence that many adults showed towards Einstein, he rose above such negativity and developed the theory of relativity. Vincent van Gogh. I read about this and was quite surprised. He only sold one painting during his life. He produced over 900 paintings, yet only Red Vineyard at Arles was sold while he was alive. While he may not have physically overcome his challenges, his persistence and dedication to his work, despite receiving no monetary compensation or external praise, is something to be commended. Actor Jim Carrey. When he was 15, he dropped out of school to support his family. Soon after, him and his family were living in a van. Despite those challenges, Jim Carrey continued to follow his dream of becoming a comedian. Thomas Edison, we know about this story, failed somewhere between 1,000 and 10,000 times before he invented the light bulb. Stephen King, his first novel, Carrie, was rejected by 30 different publishers. This is very similar to J.K. Rowling's story of Harry Potter and how many times it was rejected by the publishing companies before it was picked up. Of course, that's just a very small sample size of famous individuals that have overcome odds, have perhaps talked to themselves negatively at one point or another. And there's many, many more average individuals who have overcome even greater odds. So don't let that negative self-talk be something that holds you back from living your best life and reaching your goals. Are all lies really that bad? There are some instances when those little small lies do help. Those are the ones that help us survive. Think about times of trauma, during grief, of sadness, moments of chaos. The phrase, "I'm going to be okay," even when you're not sure you are. I know we've all said this at some point in our lives, and it is a way to help push us forward, to look for that light at the end of the tunnel, to know that whatever stress or anxiety or troubles are currently with us, that at some point they will move on, everything will be good again. And so that little bit of a push forward can be a good lie that we tell ourselves. Even when there is doubt, that we're not sure we're going to get through something, we need to tell ourselves that it's going to be okay, that we'll be fine, and we will not only learn and grow from this incident or whatever the trouble might be, but we know that if it happens again, we're going to be prepared. Now we've reached the point where the truth finally shows up. What happens when the lie breaks? A few things. First, there might be a sense of relief. Relief that you came clean and were honest. Relief that the stress of holding in a lie is no longer there. There's the breakdown, where now the truth is out and you can take the next steps, whether it's just with yourself or with the person that you were honest with, whether that's mending a friendship, whether it's work-related, whatever that might be. There's that sense of relief, and then it goes into, okay, now that we've got that all out in the open, let's try to get this back to where it needs to go. And lastly, you have then the growth. What have you learned from this situation? Do you realize that you didn't need to be deceitful or dishonest in the first place? What did you learn from this situation that's going to make things better and easier the next time? I think we can all come up with a reflection or a story about a moment in our own lives or someone that we know that had to finally face the truth. Maybe it was time to switch careers or go after a new job. Maybe it was going to your doctors and them telling you that it's time for you to make some changes with your nutrition and your exercise. Maybe it was a relationship that started to turn sour, whether that was a significant other or a long-time friendship. And I want you to ask yourself, how did your life change after that? There was probably some difficulty at some point, but you most likely came out feeling better about opening up and being honest. That's always going to win out. Being honest with yourself, with those you care about, than hiding a lie. It causes extra stress, anxiety, and that feel good, that relief of being open and being honest can go a long way, and not only mending the fences, but going forward with your life and those relationships that you do have. As we wrap things up, I want you to consider that while telling the truth can be a risk at times, the reward is far greater. It takes courage to speak the truth, especially to ourselves. And I want to pose a couple of questions as we leave today. What's one lie that you've been telling yourself to stay safe? What truth might be waiting on the other side of that fear. I want to leave you with a quote from Brené Brown. Vulnerability sounds like truth and feels like courage. Truth and courage aren't always comfortable, but they're never weakness. Have a great rest of your week. Take care.